What up guys, Brinks here, and welcome to the third episode of Kameo Klass with Smoke. So, Smoke is one of the better designed characters in this game, and can make good use of many of the cameos. And doesn't really just have one definitive best cameo, at least not at this point in the meta. So, I created the series to go through all of his better cameo options and really show the cool things that each one offers Smoke. For this episode, we're going to cover the four-legged plus frame monster, Motaro. So when the game came out, I initially wrote Motaro off as not having much to offer Smoke compared to many of the other choices. But the most recent balance patch has really given Motaro an identity and a place in the meta, and one that is actually quite beneficial to Smoke. So let me show you what they can do. Let's start with the move that arguably is the least useful for Smoke, Teleport. As it stands in the current version of the game, Motaro's teleport isn't fast enough to give Smoke any new grounded combo extensions like he does for Shao or Scorpion or whatever, and due to the hit reaction of pretty much all of Smoke's moves and his throw, canceling him out of them just causes the opponent to flop back and hit the ground before Smoke can do anything to juggle them. So, in summary, there's no cool rule-breaking swag that Motaro's teleport is going to give you until NRS stops being cowards and buffs this move to be way faster. The closest thing, which mind you is a huge gimmick, but gimmicks can be fun and this one is no exception, is you can cancel the end lag of some of your more unsafe moves after they're blocked. Motaro can even pull you out of hit stun if you call him before you get hit, leading to some wacky interactions. One of the best uses for this is after a blocked teleport, since Smoke bounces back so far. The move is still punishable depending on character, but there's a very precise timing where Motaro can pull Smoke out of danger even as he is being hit, which sometimes lets you punish them for trying to punish it. It's dumb and hilarious to mess around with, and you could even steal a round or two using this, because a lot of people tend to have a specific muscle memory for punishing some of the more unsafe moves like this. And you might hit them with it a couple times before they adapt and just wait for the teleport. It's not super hard for someone to punish you if you're spamming stuff like this. Obviously, you can also do this with other moves and create some pretty ridiculous fake-out situations where you can trick your opponent into committing to a reversal that you can then punish depending on the move they do. Smoke is all about harassing your opponent to see what kind of dumb shit you can get away with, and then shoving it down their throat once you have your answer. The next move to go over is a bit more usable for Smoke, though still pretty situational, the triple shot tail laser, or tail turret as the game calls it. It is a summon that costs the entire cameo bar with like a 3-hour cooldown, so it's kind of a YOLO option that you'll really only want to use if it could take the round or game. That said, the screen control that the triple shot gives you is pretty insane, and you're mainly going to be using it to compound your pressure to try and give you that one final opening to finish off the opponent. Normally, Smoke's cancel pressure has gaps that can be armored or mashed out of, but if you time it so that the tail shots cover those gaps, then your opponent has to just take the pressure or risk getting hit. The damage scaling on the tail shots is pretty shit, so you're not going to get crazy combo damage from it, but if you use it in the right situation, that won't really matter. Probably the coolest aspect of it is if you have your opponent locked down in the corner, which you generally will thanks to the move we're going to discuss later, you can kind of force them into a 50-50 between forward 3 and throw. Since it's a summon, you can be punished for just doing it in their face, especially if your opponent likes to mash, so it is safer to combo into it or start it after a knockdown, the best being jump 1-1-2. Luckily, it's quite easy to do this off of your corner B&B. Instead of ending in forward 1-2-1+3 after a double 3-2, do a standing 4 into Motaro. This gives Motaro enough time so that the first shot doesn't miss if the opponent delays wake up, and it leaves you safe if they try to wake up with buttons. There are kind of two versions of the throw mix here. You can do a forward throw, which will become a small shove into the laser. The trick is, you can pretty much do the shove at any point while Motaro does his thing, and they'll get launched. But if you shove them right before the laser passes over them, they'll duck it, but get hit by the second laser, which is fine, but you'll lose a tiny bit of damage this way. Also, if they see this coming, they can tech the shove, since it's still a forward throw technically, and then they'll still get launched by the next shot, but you lose a lot of damage in this scenario. The better version of it is to just grab them right before the laser passes over them. They'll get pulled into the laser before the game even lets them try and tech, meaning they have to duck or try and immediately jump out, both of which you can punish if you see them coming. The other side of the setup is to just forward 3 them if you think they're going to duck the throw. Forward 3 will combo into the first laser, and you can basically do whatever combo you want from here, and it should do close to 30% for no meter. The forward 3 is a bit harder to time, however, since when the opponent leans forward from the hit, they can potentially duck the shot. So just make sure you're timing your forward 3 to connect right when the shot is about to pass over them, just like if you were trying to grab them into it without the shove. Also, if they block the first mix, you'll usually have enough time to try again for the second or third laser. Another awesome use for the triple shot is to give you extra pressure while invisible. Smoke is already gross when he's invisible, but how about when there's also some horse asshole shooting shit at you? The way I like to set up into this is the same way you would end a combo with an EX smoke ball. Instead, after the forward 1-2 1+3, just call Motaro, and then throw your EX smoke ball. Sure, the opponent can anti-air the smoke ball, but now they have to worry about Motaro shooting at them from off the screen somewhere, which can make them much more hesitant to try and punish you. And as an invisible smoke, all you need is a tiny bit of fear and hesitation on the part of your opponent, and it's playtime. The same stuff from the previous setup applies here too. If you hit them with a forward 3 right before the tail shot would connect, then it'll launch them. But now since you're invisible, back 2 is also on the table and will have the same result and is better to go for than a throw, since you get much better damage. Essentially, if you manage to get Motaro out and turn invisible, you'll have a very favorable situation for a few seconds, and most people will likely just stay blocking and wait for it to be over. So you really want to take advantage of that, and can even use the extra pressure from Motaro to let you land a standard invisible mix-up that obviously leads to a lot more damage than a laser combo. Even when not invisible and mid-screen, the triple shot still gives you a lot of control and could even just give you enough of a distraction to go invisible and start your standard invisible mix. Overall, the triple shot requires some setup, but leads to a lot of very favorable situations for Smoke. Just pay attention to how your opponent tries to deal with it and use it against them as usual. The next move to discuss is going to be pretty hit or miss and all depends on matchup, which is the Reflect. It's always good to have an anti-zoning option, but Smoke is already full of those, so the Reflect isn't exactly life-changing for him. Since the patch though, the cooldown is substantially faster, so it is a lot more worth it to throw out on projectile reads, this including low hat, which, depending on screen position, can be used on reaction to turn the opponent's hat or fireball pressure into yours. And it can even punish some of these moves, or lead to full combos. It's a pretty solid move, but its usefulness purely depends on the character you're fighting against. The threat of it alone can at least make your opponent hesitate to throw out projectiles from a certain range, so make sure you show them that you're willing to call them out when given the chance. And if you really just want to shut that option down for a short time, you can hold the input to cause Motaro to walk forward with the shield for a few seconds until the meter runs out. One final note about the reflect is that for some reason it doesn't work on every projectile, or it has a weird interaction with them. For example, it just ignores Havoc's back forward 3, but not his back forward 1. It blocks Scorpion's spear, but does not reflect it. It reflects sub-clone push, but unless you're close to him, he won't get hit by it, and it'll just reflect back again off of his hand. And also, Kenshi's Sento sword toss just goes right through it and hits you. There are likely others, but those are what I know of offhand, and it just reinforces how matchup dependent of a move it is. It's just a neat tool to have in your kit that can lead to some decent neutral control. The final move to talk about is the reason that I even reconsidered trying Motaro with Smoke, and decided to make this video at all. But before I get into the move, let's do a quick review of Smoke's pressure so I can properly explain where Motaro comes into all this and why he's so crazy. As you likely know, one of Smoke's signature strengths is his pressure due to his cancels. It really lets you set a whole bunch of layered mind games as to when it's safe for your opponent to try and take their turn back. Spoiler alert, a lot of Smoke's cancel pressure can be mashed on, despite what some of the brave anti-Smoke warriors on Twitter would have you believe. But if the Smoke player messes up the cancel, which we never do, but sometimes your controller acts up, or it's windy, or there's lag, or your socks are too tight, or it's Monday, or you're on player 2 side, or you're hungry, well then the full Vicious Vapors comes out instead, which will usually hit if they try to mash. Sure, it only does a few %, but it could make your opponent think twice about their mashing. And if they hesitate to take their turn back, or decide to wait for another messed up cancel, which is very punishable on block by the way, well that could be a free throw for you, or even more cancels to further overwhelm their mental stack until they falter and get opened up. Now that all sounds pretty great, and trust me, it's a blast. Smoke is sick, and his pressure can feel hard to keep track of, but what if we had yet another option to bully the opponent with? What if we had a move so devastating that it punished the opponent for blocking, such that we get a guaranteed strike-throw mix-up? Enter the Centaur and his despicable tail shot. So in the Quan Chi patch, they took the plus frames away from Lao's low hat and gave it to Motaro's tail shot, along with a sizable dose of steroids. It doesn't have the screen control or toddler level mix of low hat, but oh god does it have the pressure, because this disgusting 26 frame low hitting move is a batshit plus 13 on block, with a cooldown of who cares. I did not misspeak, and you did not hear incorrectly. This vile-ass move is a hellish plus 13 on block, and the war crimes Smoke can commit with it might put me on a watch list to even show you, but fuck it. So not only do you get to just drool on your controller while you shotgun bottles of Elmer's glue, but you get guaranteed mix if they block this move. Let me show you. Plus 13 means that you can act 13 frames before your opponent can, after a blocked tail shot. So during that window, if you input a stand 1 to forward 1 or forward 3, it'll jail and therefore beat any mash or armor your opponent tries, assuming that you're close enough to them. Just keep in mind that the slower the move, the smaller the window for you to make it jail from the tail shot, with forward 3 being the least forgiving. The scariest part of all of this is that the tail shot keeps your opponent in block stun for so long that they cannot neutral duck any highs that come out during that 13 frame window. They can still neutral duck throws while in block stun, but stand 1, 2, and most importantly, forward 1, will all actually hit them if you're fast enough with the input. To put it all together, after blocking tail shot, your opponent must duck or tech to avoid a throw, or block to avoid a forward 1, which will hit them for a full combo if they neutral duck. They cannot mash, jump, or even armor to escape the forward 1. On top of this devastating strike throw mix, the cooldown is so quick that you generally can loop this multiple times if your opponent keeps blocking. Or you can even just loop 1114 or 21 into tail shot for chip damage before going for the strike throw mix. The opponent's best escape option here is to armor before the tail shot, or armor through one of your block strings, such as forward 1-2 or 1-1, so just be aware of this. As for setting it all up, similar to Raiden's baby-ass poke into Storm Cell bullshit, you can essentially just cancel into the Motaro Pain Train off of any blocked string or poke. I like to do it off a down 3 or down 3-4, or just any time my opponent blocks literally anything. The only saving grace for this move as far as the opponent is concerned is that it actually knocks them down on hit, which obviously gives them access to their wake-up options to try and get out of the situation. And also that there is an armor gap before Motaro comes out, but this really only matters if they can full combo from it or you're one hit from dead. But all in all, it is an insane move that takes your pressure game to a stupid level and lets you kind of pretend to be Johnny Cage and bully the shit out of your opponent for like 10 minutes until they guess right and get to play the game again. It's fucking hilarious. Before we close out the lesson, I've just got a couple more things to mention. This is the first Kameo I've covered that actually takes away health. Now, Smoke has 1,000 health at base, which is standard, so it's not that bad. But being down to 950 health does mean you can survive a few less pokes or chip than you would have normally. So you might occasionally have to dial back the glue eating if you're low on health. And finally, for some reason, Motaro has an alternate Fatal Blow startup attack that is way faster than Smoke's. So it does give us a lot more freedom to combo into Fatal, which is normally pretty specific. And it does let us get a tiny bit more damage off of the optimal Fatal Blow B&B. So that is a neat bonus. That concludes the third episode of Kameo Klass with Smoke. If you made it this far, as usual, you're fucking awesome, and I appreciate you a lot. If you enjoyed these videos or have any feedback, good or bad, I would love to hear it, and I will try and respond to every comment. Liking and subscribing mega helps me out if you want to support the channel. Otherwise, the Quan Chi guide is in progress. I have a few chameleon videos that I want to do, and maybe another less scripted, talking kind of rambly video to add my 2 cents into the discussion that's been going on about the state of the game. Next Kameo class that I'm thinking is probably going to be Sub-Zero. Then it's between Scorpion, Serena, and Striker, most likely. Let me know if you're leaning towards any of those specifically. That might help me choose which one will be after. And I might try another stream too. Maybe just a Combat League stream. Otherwise, later.